Well, my Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 review is finally here, even if it's much too late to matter. I struggled to finish the game, and that was a huge reason why this video took so long to make. I don't think that it's an understatement to say that Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is the biggest betrayal to an audience in gaming history, and maybe one of the most overrated games of all time. The only game that I can think of that betrayed an audience even close to this bad was The Last of Us Part 2, but because the audience of the first games are so different, I think Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is the far worse offender. Tell me if you've heard this story before. A game comes out and does well enough to get a sequel. The sequel changes what made the first game so special in order to appeal to the modern audience, and in doing so, loses all of the appeal of the first game. The first Kingdom Come Deliverance was funded by people that wanted an extremely immersive and historically accurate medieval game experience. That was the selling point of the first game. Historical accuracy and deep immersion. Gamers just wanted a good historically accurate medieval era game without being pushed a modern agenda. Historical accuracy, not modern revisionism. Warhorse obviously knows that the main audience of the first game was the chuds, and with the sequel, Warhorse decided to directly stab that audience in the back. Again, the audience that brought the first game into existence. Warhorse is literally going back on what they said just a few years ago when they were making the first game. It's clear that Daniel Vavra and Warhorse Studios decided to sell out to Embracer Group for a few shekels. It's undeniable, and as this video goes on, you'll see exactly why. Embracer Group is fully embracing diversity, equity, and inclusion, and is extremely ESG compliant, and they're a huge driving force behind DEI in video games. Now, I'm not going to go down the Embracer Group rabbit hole because that's just too much of a story right there on their own, but you should do your own research into just how shady they really are. If Vavra isn't selling out, the only other explanation is that Vavra was always just a cuck, because he says no one forced him to do anything, so maybe he was just always a homo, all on his own. Now, you can't claim on one hand that the game is historically accurate and then on the other hand claim that any of your historical inaccuracies are justified because some of them are optional and anyone who questions it's an incel chud. Condemning your audience for calling you out on your bullshit doesn't make you more correct, it just makes you look more desperate. Let me be clear, basically every leak you've heard about this game is absolutely true. This game is woke as shit, but it's a Trojan horse of wokeness. It's presented and advertised as not woke when it very much is. Much of this review will be based on the story and the crazy things they added to the story because that's what's more important, and the gameplay hasn't really changed that much from the first game, and some of the changes they did make aren't great. If this was a Bethesda or BioWare or any Sony movie game, none of this shit would fly. Everyone would call it out directly, but for some reason, Warhorse is largely getting a pass. I did a preliminary sort of discussion video when all of the woke parts of the game came out, and not only was I right, but I didn't realize just how bad things were until now, since I've finished the game. Now, I don't like the modern overuse of the term humiliation ritual, but to see some people describe this game as a humiliation ritual, they're absolutely correct. It definitely feels that way. What other conclusion are we supposed to come to when we're constantly being shit on, having to dig through actual shit, and constantly having to do annoying bitch work, and we can't question any of it? This game is an absolute slog to get through. The best thing about Daniel Vavra grifting and lying is he helped expose other grifters and liars, so thanks for that, I guess. Seriously, this game is the perfect test for identifying grifters. The simping for this game is just sad. There's been a lot of non-woke reviewers that say this game wasn't woke at all. These guys have just exposed themselves as centrist libertarian grifters.
The representation in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 works because it's invisible. It's not shoved down your throat, it's just there. No need to justify itself or talk in circles about it.
I think if you refunding it, I think that's fucking stupid.
There is a gay sex scene, there is a same-sex relationship, which there was not in Kingdom Come Deliverance 1. My stance on this is simply that if you want to have the option, have the option. It doesn't bother me.
First up, guys, let's quickly address the woke. I don't want to give it more than like a minute or so because there's nothing. It's just bollocks.
Of course, the mainstream reviewers also loved this game, but the same people that are calling Assassin's Creed Shadows woke love this game. What the fuck? George Floyd's Samurai is probably more historically accurate than this game, and it was a woke pile of shit. It's so funny that people call me the actual right-wing radical a grifter, but if I was grifting, I would just take the middle-of-the-road milquetoast route because that's where the money actually is. Of course, companies like Warhorse rarely make games that directly center around wokeness. Instead, they have to bastardize existing franchises and concepts that are well-liked to push a narrative, even if it's their own franchise or concept. Warhorse hid all of the woke shit at the end of the game, knowing most of the reviewers and the audience won't get that far. It's clear that they were very deliberate with what they snuck into the game and how they did it. This is going to be the playbook from now on. Sneaking in the more egregious things so the majority of the players don't encounter it, the mainstream reviewers certainly won't encounter it, or if they do, they'll ignore it because they agree with it. I also want to say this, and I've said it before, but I'll say it again. It's Optional Bro is just an attempt to deflect from the fact that the woke shit shouldn't be in the game in the first place. It being optional doesn't make it any less woke. If you don't like woke elements in games, but you're okay with it in this game because it's optional, you're a part of the problem. The definition of woke is not something that's forced or in your face because it's always going to be hard to determine intent. Woke is just a catch-all term for progressive ideology, if you want a simplified definition. Any progressive ideology at all in a game is woke, regardless of whether or not it's forced. If the progressive ideology is even slightly subliminal, and that makes it so you can't tell that a game is woke, then you have zero pattern recognition skills. The more overt propaganda exists simply to shift the Overton window to the left so you don't notice the more subtle propaganda. That's why we've lost so much ground over the years, and why the quality of games and media in general continues to rapidly decline. Of course, this game isn't as woke as Dragon Age the Veilguard, or Avowed, or Forspoken, but those games exist to shift the Overton window to the left, so most people feel that a game like Kingdom Come 2 is acceptable. The gamers that are okay with this are the gamers that make those games happen as well. And again, this game is far worse than you think it is. It's not just that it's woke too, it actually has a lot of other issues that we'll go more in depth on throughout the rest of the video. What flavor is this? Ultra Strawberry Dreams? That's gay as fuck. I can't be drinking that. That's a little too sus. That's just good though. What's going on, guys? It's your boy Drinker here, and if you couldn't tell from the intro, we are finally talking about Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. This video took a long time to make. I wish I had more time to get it done sooner, and maybe a little more concisely, but hey, we made it. If you guys do enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe, turn on post notifications, all that good shit, because it really does help the channel grow a ton. Consider becoming a channel member or checking out my locals if you wish to support me even further. I'm also streaming more, so check out my streams. The stream is in the description. But after that, let's go ahead and jump back into the video. The game mostly ran fairly well in terms of functionality. Mainly there was some heavy stuttering and just general stability issues. I had a few times where the map failed to load. The reputation system is definitely fucked up because you do one minor thing and then you get a marker that your reputation has gone down and it goes down across the entire fucking map. Soon red frowny faces are everywhere when you basically did nothing. And shit, nowadays you can stab someone at a track meet and a large portion of the population will still love you because of your skin color, so no one cares if you steal an apple. The AI sometimes breaks and they walk into walls, or 10 NPCs struggle to get through a door, blocking each other's paths like it's a Bethesda game. The NPCs get stuck on staircases all the time. In fact, I'm tired of getting stuck on staircases too, because sometimes you have to jump to go upstairs. You just get stuck on them randomly. Did anyone test this at all? Because it happens a lot, and it's seriously so fucking annoying. There was a lot of very minor bugs like missing textures, lighting issues, or pop-in, but in general, it wasn't anything too serious. I don't think the game even crashed once, and I mostly maintained a decent frame rate throughout my playthroughs. One time though, the game did somehow turn on my NVIDIA telemetry. That was really weird. I've never had a game do that before, and that was really weird. It did it all on its own, but I just had to turn it off and it was fine. The final cutscene in the game is also super glitchy and really weirdly done. It's almost like there's a lot of jump cuts like in video editing. It's probably still not entirely finished. I also had a bug where Henry was extremely quiet during a cutscene, like almost silent. Overall though, as far as functionality goes, the game was in pretty good shape, especially by modern gaming standards. Now, the world is extremely beautiful. This was a strength of the first game. They took the same amazing art style from the first game and cranked up the beauty even more. It's extremely atmospheric. It definitely has a little bit of an Ubisoft world design though. It's extremely beautiful, but pretty uninteresting. There's no reason to actually go out and explore anything. It's not like Fallout where you want to look everywhere because everything's so interesting. Outside of the quests, there's not really a reason to go anywhere. The NPCs do feel even more interactive and lively. The first game did a really good job of this as well, but they really improved upon it a ton here. They're highly reactive.
You almost ran me over!
They react to such detail that if you're dirty and smelly, they comment on it, or if you're crouch walking around, they get really suspicious, things like that.
At least take a bath before you go out.
It's funny comparing NPCs in this game to NPCs in Starfield who literally have no reaction unless you shoot them directly in the face. The game does keep weapon sharpening and alchemy from the first game. Alchemy sucks and I basically avoided it at all costs, but it is essentially the same minigame as it was in the first game. But a big addition to Kingdom Come 2 is blacksmithing. Again, this is implemented so well and it's actually weirdly relaxing to forge your own sword. It's good to have a relaxing break from the rest of the game. The people that design these minigames actually nailed it. They truly feel authentic and immersive. The overall atmosphere is probably the strongest point of the game. Riding around the landscapes is serene and peaceful, and when you do get to a town, it actually feels like a town. Again, the first game did a great job of this, but this game did it even better. The city of Kuttenberg is especially well done. It's extremely well modeled and the architecture is just fantastic, but unfortunately outside of the main story, it can be pretty boring there, but it does really feel like an authentic medieval city. The perks in this game basically work exactly like they did in Kingdom Come 1. You level up by doing. Now, I actually had a long stretch of the game where I wasn't selecting my perks because the game was generally really easy and your choices don't really matter, so being particular about my perks didn't seem that important to me. But I do like the learning by doing. It's simple but makes perfect sense. A lot of the perks in the first game though had trade-offs, whereas almost all the perks in this game are direct benefits, and overall I like that change a lot. It's good to feel like you're actually progressing when you're progressing through the game. Now I want to talk about the melee combat. How is the melee combat worse than it was in the first game? The first game's combat was basic, but sort of intuitive with its simplicity, but again, it was definitely jank at times. It was far from flawless, but for a first entry from a studio that crowdfunded their game, it was fine. Especially with everything else the game had to offer, if you didn't like the combat, you were willing to put up with it. But after 8 years of development, the sequel's melee combat is barely changed from the first game at all, and some of the changes that they made actually made it worse. First, the hit detection is fucking horrendous. You really notice this fighting dogs and wolves who aren't difficult to beat, but your attacks miss constantly for no reason. You can parry and riposte your opponent's attacks, but they can also do that to your attacks. So you end up in constant parry, riposte trade-offs back and forth. You just end up doing the same thing over and over and over again. They've added Master Strikes, but they're only available to swords, which makes the swords easily better than any other melee weapon in the game, and they basically tell you that when you're learning Master Strikes. It's the best mechanic in the game for damage. The Master Strike is basically a free hit on your opponent. Oh, and your opponent can also Master Strike you. Again, this can make things just even more frustrating because if you can't Master Strike them, you'll be at a big disadvantage. Again, there's really no reason to use anything but swords. Why would you intentionally handicap yourself? The combat animations are definitely an improvement over the first game and are at least visually more immersive, but in terms of feel, I feel games like Chivalry 2 have much more immersive feeling combat. This was actually a really big disappointment for me in Kingdom Come 2. Again, 8 years later, in the main form of combat, melee combat feels like it was an afterthought. It's smoother and more visually stunning, but lacks any true substance. Now, the crossbow is a pretty good addition to the game, but the guns feel extremely pointless. The guns are insanely powerful and are basically one-hit kills, but they're impossible to hit anything with. You can shove your pistol up someone's ass and it will still somehow miss. This makes the guns feel more like a gimmick, which they kind of are. If there was any way to level up your accuracy with guns or reload speed with guns with your perks, then it would feel far more valuable, but there isn't. And at the moment you miss, you just swap weapons because reloading takes so fucking long. The crossbow, though, it's very useful because it's actually fairly accurate. It still has an extremely slow reload speed, but hitting your target matters. A big thing that was missing from the first game that wasn't improved upon at all is large-scale battles. There are 0 large-scale battles that happen on screen at any time during the game. At most, it's a handful of guys that you fight. Even the biggest battle towards the end of the game is just a huge disappointment.
What?
You're at war, but you never feel like you're at war. At most, the biggest fights feel like small skirmishes. Now, the quest structure in this game sucks ass. It's actually fucking awful. A lot of the quests are do-nothing busy work that send you across the map for no reason at all. There are multiple missions, mandatory story missions, that force you to carry sacks around for no reason. It happens about 5 times in the main storyline. For a long time, I wasn't having fun at all, and one mission made me really understand just why I wasn't having fun. I'm going to describe this mission in detail so maybe you can see just why the mission structures aren't fun, because every mission is like this. I go to get a rock for a woman. I have to steal it from a guy that has it because I wasn't going to do more errands to get it. I take the rock back to the woman who tells me it's a fake, so I have to go back to the guy I stole it from, and he tells me that the original rock was already stolen by someone else. So then I have to go find the original thieves, one of whom is locked up in a camp, and of course this person is on the other side of the map. Once I free him, he tells me who actually has the rock, and of course this person is on the other side of the map again. Then I steal the rock from her because, again, I wasn't going to do more errands to get it, and I just wanted the mission to be over quicker. Once I had the rock, I returned to the original guy that was supposed to have it just to tell him he wasn't getting it back.
If you give it to anybody else...
Then I take it to the woman who initially asked for me to get the rock in the first place. This mission took over an hour, and I want to reiterate, it was all for a fucking rock. That is the quest design in this game in a nutshell. The quests suck, and they're generally all pointless wastes of time. Favreau's a fucking hack. The side quests are the best quests in the game, however, unlike the first game, mostly they're average, and the main quests just happen to suck more. Now, of course, there are some interesting and cool ones, and there is a little something for everyone, but overall, I found most of them to just be whatever. The nice thing about most of the side quests, though, is that they are pretty much DEI free. I don't remember seeing anything in a side mission that was too egregious, but I didn't play a ton of them, so I definitely could have missed something. I mainly powered through the main story, which, as we'll discuss further, was a really big waste of time. However, a big thing I noticed is that most of the side quests don't have you doing bitch work like carrying sacks around. Now, bitch work isn't the only annoying quests you'll suffer through. There's so many forced stealth sections that are just absolutely miserable to play through. Some of these take about an hour when you factor in having to reload your save 25 times. So if it's not bitch work, it's suffering through horrific forced stealth sequences that might be even worse. Almost none of the main quests are enjoyable, but at least the autosave is more generous than it was in the first game, so when you die, you don't lose 2 hours of progress and have to play those awful quests all over again. I'm not going to do an in-depth story synopsis because, again, that really isn't the point of this review, and you can just Google it if you really care that much. I do want to say that the main story, on paper, isn't really that bad. It's definitely too long, and the game is dragged out much longer than it should be, but again, on paper, it's a perfectly acceptable story. Overall though, the pacing does get really tiresome by the end of the game. Now in practice, it definitely does have some issues besides how woke it is, and I'll discuss some of the other issues with the story before going in depth on just how woke it is. The first 3 hours of the game are basically a glorified cutscene. Early in the game, Henry falls off a small cliff, and this resets his abilities from the first game. He forgets how to do everything. Henry now rides the short bus and needs to wear a helmet when going outdoors. But hey, at least they have a narrative reason why Henry forgot how to do everything he learned in the first game. But obviously it's a little stupid when writers and developers do this. The first area of the game isn't too bad as far as the story goes. There's a lot of bitch work, but in general it's nothing too offensive and fairly enjoyable once you actually get out into the world. But when you reach the second half of the game, that's where things go completely off the rails, which again, we'll discuss more in the next section. There is a lot of saved at the last second cliches, like when Catherine rescues you from prison or when Hans is saved from execution. Seriously, there's a scene in this game where you do all this bitch work to try to free Hans from being executed for poaching, but after all that, Hans ends up being saved anyway, so everything you just did didn't fucking matter at all. Again, everything you just did was all bitch work and it didn't matter, but you have to do it. If you fail to do it, you get a game over screen. There is no meaningful player choice, and you'll discover this very quickly. Much of the dialogue options don't matter at all, and the game tries really hard to make you think that they do, but overall mission outcome remains the same regardless of which choice you make most of the time. Again, my main problem with the game is that it's just filled with so much bitch work. Besides the 10 times that you have to carry sacks from one spot to another, there's a mission where you have to serve wine, and it lasts a long time. Seriously, this mission lasts like 20 fucking minutes. It's actually ridiculous. Oh, by the way, the end of this mission, the king orders that the entire Jewish quarter be slaughtered in a completely out-of-character way.
Find a couple of wretches in a hole somewhere. Point them to the Jewish quarter and give them free rein to do anything.
I'm sure this won't be relevant at all in any way in our upcoming woke segment. That's called subtle foreshadowing.
Vavra is so fucking on the nose that he decided to make Sigismund a funny mustache man self-insert. And the direct proof of this is in the second post-credits scene. And I would like you to watch these two scenes side by side. Yeah, fuck off.
There's even a mission where Henry can befriend humans who were there during the attack on Skalitz in the first game. Do I even need to explain how the option to be friendly with people who were directly involved in your parents' death is stupid? Henry has every reason to want to slaughter the humans and to be racist towards them, but he can be friends with them. Now, fortunately, you do get a pretty satisfying conclusion to the story of the first game when you kill Toth and throw him out of a window. That's the story highlight of the entire game, hands down. They definitely went for a more cinematic Sony movie game approach in this game. You can tell that they had an increased budget to work with because there are a lot more lengthy cutscenes. Honestly, this just would have been better if they made it a fucking movie. And then after long cutscenes, there'll be quick and pointless walking segments followed immediately by another cutscene. There was no reason to exit the cutscene in the first place. There's also multiple times where you play as Godwin and they're annoying and unnecessary, and they should have just been cutscenes as well. The writing is also heavily downgraded from the first game. Instead of immersive 15th century writing like the first game, the writing has been degraded to like Reddit tier, Marvel tier level dialogue and humor. It feels more like a Renaissance fair, and much of the humor is so cringe-inducing it just made me want to kill myself. Most of the characters in the game aren't likable, except for Dry Devil and his band. Many of the characters are also essential and can't die at all. When you first meet Musa, who we'll definitely get to more later, don't you worry, we have to immediately prove his innocence from a crime. There's no option to proceed any other way, and you get a game over screen if you're not successful. Where's the player choice? It only ever seems to come up when there's sodomy involved. Towards the end of the game, you finally get to fight Eric, and after kicking his ass, you don't even get to kill him, but instead you just leave in a cutscene. The 10 seconds it would have taken to finish him off, no, not that way, would have apparently been 10 seconds too many. Again, you have player choice when it comes to finishing dudes off, but not when it comes to finishing dudes off. This is also a game that suffers from the revenge is bad trope, just like The Last of Us Part 2. I'm actually going to do a full retrospective on The Last of Us Part 2 soon, so stay tuned for that. The endless cycle of revenge bullshit is just so stupid and played out. Murder ends the cycle of revenge. At the very end of the game, you talk to your parents and what's basically a dream. I was only able to settle down with Hans, so after suffering through their sword fighting scene, I obviously wasn't gonna choose to do that. It's also funny how during this scene, your parents judge you for every good or bad decision you make and give it no nuance. We're in a war, tough decisions have to be made, but nope, it's either you were good or you were bad. It's actually comedic, there's zero subtlety to it. You're either the best person ever or cartoonishly evil. It's just awful, it's so badly done. And what's funny is if you do choose to settle down with Capon, they don't care. Your deeply Christian, bohemian parents have nothing to say about you choosing to settle down with another man. You just get no satisfaction from the end of the game. The romances suck, and Henry's ending is basically just a handful of choices with no meaning. And going back to the writing, there's 2 after credit scenes, again like this is a fucking Marvel movie. This game was seriously written by millennial women and Redditors. Now we get to the part of the video that many of you were probably waiting for or skipped to. The part where we talk about just how disgustingly woke this game really is, and don't worry, I will provide examples highlighting every single one of my points. It will be entirely irrefutable. Like I said earlier in the video, most of the woke DEI bullshit is hidden in the second area of the game. The first area of the game is almost entirely DEI free for the most part. Now the first thing I really want to say is that Vavra has got to stop putting his disgusting fetishes into games. This game has an obsession with shit, cuckoldry, and foot fetish stuff. Just because Vavra's a disgusting freak doesn't mean the rest of us are. There are multiple times throughout the game where you have to dig through shit. There's even a time where Henry and Hans contemplate eating dog shit.
I am so fucking hungry. Even that dog turd looks tempting. It's like a big, fat sausage.
What other conclusion am I supposed to come up with other than Vavra has a disgusting poop fetish? Then there's the weird cuck stuff. There are multiple times in the game where people, completely unprompted, start talking about cuckoldry.
That I'm a fool, an idiot whose wife is cuckolding him. Cuckold.
Just completely out of left field. Seriously, this just keeps happening. Like I said, there's even multiple weird foot fetish things in the game, including a guy stealing Catherine's shoes and doing disgusting things with it.
I lost a shoe.
A shoe?
If both went missing, I just think someone stole them. But one? What good is one of my shoes to anyone?
I could think of a few things.
Yuck.
After all that, though, we get to the main thing that got everyone's attention. The gay relationship between Henry and Hans. What's funny is that Hans, in the very beginning of the game, makes a joke about Henry and him fighting with their cocks.
Should we start?
Do you think we're gonna fight with our cocks?
The game came full circle. According to Warhorse themselves, Henry is a straight, white, Christian male, canonically a straight white Christian male. The developers are going against their own statements. There's even multiple points in this game, including the very beginning of this game, where Henry and Hans actively chase women together. Does anyone else not find it a little disturbing that they would take Henry, a character that is not a blank slate, and change his sexual preference? Same with Hans. They were both straight, but boom, now they're bisexual. Is that not just creepy as fuck? Of course, player choice only matters when it comes to sodomy. Not all options or choices are good. There's a reason you can't diddle kids, or be a slaver, or things like that. It's optional, so it must be okay, right? All choices, all options are good. Yes, this is an RPG, but you're playing as an established character with an established background in an established setting. Even if you're okay with the gay relationship, which I'm not, it narratively makes no sense to have Henry and Hans be able to be in a relationship together. This was clearly thrown in at the last minute to check a box to help Embracer Group's ESG score. Oh, and if anyone says Henry and Hans's potential gay relationship is hidden, they are lying. Hans's romance is the only romance in the game that is directly presented to you in the main story quests. There's only 4 dialogue options needed to romance Hans, and two are directly shown to you if you progress the main story. Of course, again, the romance is with 2 canonically straight characters. Some of the dialogue options don't even sound gay. A couple of them are things like, I care about you, and I'm glad you're okay. That's not really gay. You can tell this dialogue was written by women who don't understand male friendships, because caring about your brother in arms doesn't automatically mean you want to suck him off. Again, I just find it so funny that the only time in this game that the developers care about player choice is when it involves sodomy. There are many times throughout the game and throughout the first game where they say Hans isn't mature, and there's a lot of things that allude to Hans being a minor in both games, even though we don't know his exact age. Or we didn't until the developers went back in after this controversy and updated the codex to say that Hans was over 18. They had no problem with underage sodomy until they got caught. Updating the codex after you got caught doesn't make you look any less guilty. Even Vavra himself didn't deny that Hans was really young. And yes, Hans sleeps with women, but that's not something you directly control. I want to say this as well. I had some people in my previous video about Kingdom Come 2 say that the gay sex scene wasn't really a gay sex scene and it was just a kiss. You're either lying or stupid. While it's not as graphic as a gay porn, it's graphic enough that I probably can't show the entire scene. It's definitely not just a kiss. Yes, unfortunately, I did suffer through all of Henry and Hans's sword fight. There's also no consequences for the gay sex scene with Hans. If this was medieval Bohemia, they would probably be stoned to death. Again, this behavior was far from common and downright illegal at the time. There's also this argument that I see going around online that's extremely disingenuous, and I see many of the pro-gay people are making it. They're implying that we were saying that there was no gay people at all in the world at that time. Obviously there were, but again, it was extremely uncommon and had severe punishments. There's actually another gay romance in the game that you can enter into, but I didn't come across it in my playthrough.
I'd rather spend the rest of the evening with you.
It would be a sin not to take this opportunity.
These are things that obviously should have never been added into the game. They could have improved the combat system, but instead they developed a gay romance. This is where their priorities lie. That's not all the woke shit they added to the game though. Oh no, not even close. Henry can get Bill Cosby'd in the game. Now, I didn't come across this myself because I chose to sleep with a chick willingly, because hey, free lay. But this scene is so much more nefarious than you'd actually think, besides Henry just getting utterly emasculated.
There is a woman named Dubravka, and she is a positively ghoulish looking woman. And if you talk to her mom, she basically asks you to dance with her because apparently she's retarded from the waist down. And if you decide to dance with this battered wench, she wants to sleep with you. All fine and dandy, right? Well, guess what? If you decide to sleep with her willingly, she then proceeds to insult your performance as Henry stands there like a moron going, "Oh no, I really enjoyed it, I don't know about you." And then she proceeds to insult him to his face.
What?
And if you decide to instead reject her and drink with her instead, she drugs you and then rapes you. Yeah, you heard that right. Henry gets molested in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. And you know what the absolute cherry on top to this bullshit is? If you talk to her afterwards, you are not even allowed to confront her about it, and instead, you are given the option to apologize. Apologize for getting raped.
Nigga, what the fuck is this bullshit?
Yeah, could you fucking imagine if the roles were reversed? Meanwhile, I've heard almost nobody talk about this. Or instead of apologizing, you're allowed to say, I'm glad it was with you. What the fuck were these cocksucking developers smoking when they wrote this? This is fucking insulting, if anything.
Basically every woman in the game is a girl boss, like when Catherine rescues you from prison. Seriously, does no one think that this is weird that every chick is a girl boss in medieval Bohemia? The three main love interests in the game are Catherine, a girl boss, but she's got big tits and dresses like a whore. The clothes Catherine wears would never be allowed in public at that time. She probably would have been stoned to death also for showing that much skin. Catherine's like a single mother, or was a mother, spoiler, and an assassin. That's not woke? In what world is that not woke? Then you have Rosa, also a girl boss. Less of a bitch than Catherine, but she's got smaller tits. When you first meet her, she actually causes an entire fight to break out by shooting a dude with a crossbow because of how much of a girl boss she is. She's also horrendously ugly sometimes, but really cute at others. It's either the lighting or they fucked up her modeling sometimes. Then you have Clara, who's the most forgettable, but she's an easy lay with big tits. She's not even really like a romance option, she's more just like a quick screw. So you can basically be with these very flawed and often annoying women, or you can be gay, which is also not a great choice.
Hey, Lois, what's going on here?
Oh, it's my book club, Peter. Come, join us.
Oh, okay.
It's not just that the women in the games are huge girl bosses, even though they are. It's that almost every woman in the game is also just a huge bitch.
If you want to have a cock measuring contest, so be it.
And a lot of the women that aren't love interests are also hideous trolls. Ugly women are woke, quote me. It's funny because the women of this time were mainly meant to be seen and not heard. But in this game, they never shut the fuck up and are always rude as shit. Then we get to everyone's favorite character. We was Kang's Musa. There were no black people in 15th century Bohemia, even Vavra himself has admitted as such. Adding a black character is woke, doesn't matter if it's only one. According to the developer's own past statements, Musa doesn't belong in the game, it's just more forced diversity. Also, the black Islamist lecturing Christians about how his people treat women better is hilarious. I guess times really have changed. It's funny how people like Vavra abandon all of their principles when they get a big enough check. Musa basically exists in the game to insult Bohemian culture and talk about how his culture is superior. And we'll talk about it with Sam and the Jews as well, but when Musa shits on you, you can't defend yourself ever.
Where is this Mali? And what's it like?
Similar to your country, yet completely different. You mine silver, we gold. But in our country, it would never happen that we allow foreigners into our mines. Overall, it is safer in our country. Nobody will waylay you on your journey.
And the blacked meme happens multiple times throughout the game. There's multiple references to Musa stealing other men's wives. I guess his BBC was just irresistible.
And we treat women with greater respect.
Just another Vavra fetish insert. And of course, we even have the white people don't season they food. It's funny knowing that Musa came from a society that practiced cannibalism, but hey, at least they season their human flesh. It's just annoying because Musa, who doesn't even need to exist in the game, is constantly talking about how much smarter he is and
educate yourself a little.
How much more ignorant the Bohemians are. He doesn't have that much necessary dialogue and still manages to be annoying in fucking all of it. He's the most condescending character in the entire game and basically has no flaws. He's good at everything. He even calls Bohemians barbarians.
In short, you are barbarians.
Musa is even on King Sigismund's court. Yes, the black Muslim is on the Bohemian Christian king's court. Make it make sense. And after all that bullshit, Musa saves Henry's ass from Eric by distracting Eric.
Eric!
And I want to talk about Eric for a second, too. Eric is the obvious Nazi analog. He even looks German, and every time he talks, he's actually objectively correct. And of course, they made him gay to humiliate the chuds. Yes, he's gay, he's in love with Toth. Can't have the chuds liking him too much. Another gay relationship in the game, by the way. The other main Nazi analog is King Sigismund, like the clip I showed you earlier in the video alludes to. He's the most charismatic character in the game, and is just generally based as fuck. Now, Vavra is so subtle, he made the extremely charismatic man with the funny mustache a Nazi analog. Very subtle. Now, why does this matter? Daniel Vavra is Jewish, and after this, I don't think you can come to any other conclusion that on top of being a totally disgusting sex freak, that he's a Jewish supremacist who hates Christianity, because there's so much in regards to this topic that we need to discuss. There's a mission where the Miller Crazel talks about wanting to make a golem and spouts open heresy about the church to do it, and of course you can't question why he's being heretical.
What Miller Crazel tells you is that he wants to create a golem, aka a homunculus.
It's apparent that Sam is Vavra's Jewish insert to preach to the player about Jewish struggle and the evil of Christians.
You're probably too young to know about it, but blaming Jews for everything has a certain sad tradition here.
Samuel basically only talks about how evil Christians are and basically always plays the victim. There are multiple times where he's just outright insulting, or the game for no reason tries to educate Henry about Jewish faith. And Sam, like Musa, doesn't even really need to be in the story. You can replace both of them with basically anyone, and the story outcome will remain the same. The first time you meet Sam, he immediately calls you a goy, which is just so on the nose.
Goy? You do not know this word?
Sorry, I don't.
Then you are a goy.
There's no option to defend yourself, and if you don't know, goy is a derogatory term that Jewish people use for non-Jewish people. Definitions often say it's sometimes pejorative, but no, it basically always is. It's funny that Sam talks about how Jews are oppressed for no reason.
You probably know that my people face outbreaks of hatred from time to time.
Which is basically what we still hear to this day.
Usually it is started by some scum spreading rumors that we eat Christian babies or poison wells.
They don't eat babies, just suck on their foreskins.
Usually it is started by some scum spreading rumors that we eat Christian babies.
And you can either blame the debtors because the bankers never did anything wrong, or you can just be ignorant to the entire issue. Those poor innocent bankers, they've never once done anything wrong. Then after your very first encounter with Sam, Sam sets you up and would have killed you if he hadn't seen that your sword was built by Martin. He would have immediately killed you if you couldn't prove that you weren't a spy. Yeah, persecuted for no reason. It's funny because this whole mission was built on the premise of infiltrating the anti-Semites meeting, and the concept and term anti-Semitism is like relatively modern. Usually we just call it being based as fuck. Yep, Jews face hatred for no reason. Man, I've been kicked out of 109 bars over 1,000 times and have never once done anything wrong. It was always the bartender's fault. Also, every time Sam insults Christians, Henry, despite being Christian himself, is never allowed to defend the Christian faith, and he certainly can never say anything negative about the Jewish faith. Where's the player choice? No, choice is only allowed if there's butt sex. So Sam and Henry are basically half-brothers. I guess this is supposed to make you feel something for Sam, but it doesn't work because he's just such an asshole who views everything as anti-Semitism. Yes, Henry has a non-blood related Jewish brother.
Well, I never thought I'd have a brother, even if not related by blood.
Well, I did not expect that either.
Martin knocked up a Jewish woman not long before he met Henry's mother because marrying a goy is forbidden. And when I say Sam views everything as anti-Semitism, I mean he views everything as anti-Semitism. There's even smaller things like Sam gets mad at you if you don't want to drink with him. He views it as an anti-Semitic slight.
Better communion wine than kosher, is it?
I made it one by drinking with everyone else besides him because he had such a bitchy attitude. Even when Godwin says, "May the Lord be with you," Sam doesn't just let it go.
I'm a fucking Jew.
Oh, and later in the story you have to help Sam's mother, and you eventually wind up in a synagogue. A modeled synagogue that didn't exist at the time, and none of the church interiors were modeled at all like they were in the first game. I had some people mad at me in my previous shorter video about how woke this game is when I mentioned this because the church interiors were on the roadmap, ignoring a fact that there's definitely a reason that they chose to model the synagogue that didn't exist yet before the churches that actually existed. Vavra went out of his way to push historical inaccuracies just to push his Jewish supremacism. And the funniest thing of all in this game is the Jews have an underground tunnel that they escape through. No, I'm not making that up.
We will go through Sheol.
There are many abandoned mine shafts under the town. One of them ends here.
That's extremely funny. If you know, you know.
This is a Hasidic Jew popping out of a tunnel beneath a historic Jewish synagogue in Brooklyn that was being used to illegally expand the church. After cement trucks came to fill up the hole, a riot broke out between the Jewish community and NYPD.
It's actually even a little on the nose, no pun intended. Oh, and if you let Sam die like I did, there's actually an extremely long segment about his burial rites as a Jew, which Christians wouldn't typically follow. They care more about his burial rites than anyone else's or anything else at that time. Even when Sam is dead, you cuck to his Jewish faith. This game was an outright chore to get through. Don't play it, it fucking sucks. Some things weren't improved upon or even downgraded from the first game, and as you saw from the last segment, the game is woke as fuck. I know much of what I've said already has been said by other reviewers, but I wanted to make a review of the game for my audience as well as add my personal input to the discourse. The first game was both pro-white and pro-Christian. This game is very much the opposite. It openly attacks Christians and white people with an overt and vehement disgust. Vavra hates his player base and has done nothing but insult his player base online after stabbing them in the back for that embracer cash. I hope the narrative around this game has really opened your eyes to which creators are shills who should be avoided at all costs and who will sell out their audience for a couple of BlackRock bucks. You deserve what you tolerate, and you shouldn't tolerate this piece of shit for a second. Anyways, guys, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, subscribe, turn on post notifications, all that good shit. It really does help the channel grow a ton. Become a channel member, join my locals, check out my streams if you wish to support me further. But as always, guys, this has been your boy Drinker, and I'm out of here. Peace.